What are the aspects of human input that are really valuable and that are always going to be scarce? And then some of the different ways that, we can sort of pair up AI transformation with human capabilities.
Right. Okay. Well, that sounds like a good topic.
Yes.
And I'm going to let you kick it off.
Okay, let's do that. If you wade into thinking first about automation, firstly, you're falling into the trap, of course, of thinking like, well, technology first rather than people and process. And secondly, you're not actually recognizing where the human contribution or the value of your human capital effectively actually lies. And it is going to shift because, if the human is not having to necessarily, let's say, create a first draft or create, a brief or what have you, it's easy to go, great, we've automated that, we can get rid of the person who's doing that. But actually, of course, the person who's doing that contributes to other things as well. Like they brought taste to the whole process in terms of judging output. They understood the context of the organization, of perhaps the client, of the brand. There are all these little aspects to the human contribution that you actually can't automate.
Mm.
So, what's important is to think about how you get the best out of the entire setup. How can you use AI to automate, bring efficiencies to the parts of the process, the parts of the workflow where that's a valuable thing to do? But where do you also need to retain the human input that creates, value in terms of judging the output or like directing the brief or what have you, that are still going to contribute to quality output. And of course, one of the sort of the aims of all kind of efficiency gain projects is to remove friction, to make it a smoother, quicker, easier process. And actually, friction, for all the pain that it can sometimes cause, can also reap a lot of benefits.
Mm.
Whether it's, think about friction between human perspectives, and the debating of those two perspectives often leads to a third outcome that's far better than either of the two perspectives on their own. Sometimes the friction that maybe slows the process down gives enough space for people to, you know, spend some time with the judgment calls they've made and really think through whether they want to continue to stand by those judgment calls or whether a few extra tweaks are made.
Right.
So there's that unintended consequence of removing friction, which sounds like a no-brainer.
Mhm.
That actually you are removing parts of the process that were integral to generating the quality that you need. You just didn't kind of realize that was happening at those friction points.
Right.
So that's a really interesting thing to think about, I suppose, as well.